All right. Well, welcome everyone who's tuning in. We have Seth Brock here, who recently went through the SDR Accelerator program, where he upgraded to an SDR at an S tier, what I call an S tier organization at Synthesia. And so, just wanted to have him on to talk through, I guess, the process he went through here at SDR Accelerator and how it was beneficial. Ultimately, it only took him about 60 days from when he first started. First started working together to actually signing the offer. And yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit more about that entire process and what Seth went through. So, question for you, Seth: before you started thinking about even making a move and jumping to essentially like an S tier SDR organization, what was going on for you at your previous role? And I guess what were you feeling in the day to day?
Yeah, the main thing that I was struggling with, I was in the work environment of being remote. So it's kind of that lack of connection, which is one thing that I was really looking for. That kind of held me back a little bit. But also, the sales process was very execution based, very heavy volume rather than being kind of that high personalized outreach. So basically, day to day, I was feeling kind of at the bottom of a mountain, and every day that mountain kind of got taller. So it didn't really seem like there were any checkpoints or clear pathway to the top. So it felt a little demotivating at some times.
Yeah, it makes sense. So it was just that feeling of like Groundhog Day, where everything's kind of the same, and there's not wasn't like a clear like light at the end of the tunnel almost. So I think that so the part that partly answers my next question. But what is the thing you want most out of your career um that you weren't really getting there? So
Yeah,
I guess like
I w-
looking more forward.
yeah, I would say that the development of my skills that would carry me on through the future. I plan to be in sales for a very long time, and kind of having that clear trajectory and skill development to become an AE was very, very important in what I was looking for in my next role.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to go off that, I think I was just talking with my RVP today actually around the value of skills because money comes and goes. But really what makes you stand out over the long period of time is your skills, which really can't be taken away until you get dementia. But that's a problem for your 50s. Okay. So next question, I guess, what were you most worried about or concerned about when it came to landing a role at like a better organization?
Yeah, I would say that one thing that I was concerned about was kind of repeating the same mistake, not knowing an org that maybe just doesn't have that same focus that I was looking for on that development or that clear pathway, and understanding which org would actually have those things set up for me.
Yeah. That makes sense. How did you? So I know you haven't fully started yet, but what gives you the confidence that Synthesia actually is that place?
Yeah, with doing a whole bunch of research, especially with you, and kind of your guidance with reaching out to other people to kind of gather that information, reaching out to SDRs, managers, previous SDRs of managers that work at the company, and
Yeah.
kind of getting everybody's opinion and,
Mhm.
kind of gaining that confidence to be able to go out there and ask those questions before accepting that role.
Yeah, that makes sense. So basically, to summarize, it's like doing more vetting of the organization to actually make sure that like if you plan to spend a year plus here, you want to make like if you're going to sign the dotted line that you're going to join the organization, you want to like be thorough in the investigation of it. And I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of wisdom in that, and a lot of people don't do it. They just sign an offer without like doing the full vetting. So I think that's super invaluable.
Yeah, and also on the side of knowing what questions to ask, because if you just
Hmm.
ask them like, "What's your experience? How's your experience been?" Not going to get
Hmm.
the most clear cut answers that are probably going to be too beneficial. So, kind of
Yeah,
going through that and understanding what's the best way to kind of get that information out.
yeah. Learning how to asking the right questions to the right people and being direct and not just like sugar and making sure people aren't sugarcoating things. That makes sense. And then I guess what made you decide to get outside help with the search, aka through the SDR Accelerator program?
Yeah. So I think turning towards people that are kind of in the position that you want to be in is
Hmm.
the greatest multiplier that you can have, cutting down the time and effort. If somebody's done what you want to do before, don't reinvent the wheel. Go ask questions, go learn. Um, and I think that was kind of my mindset going into looking for outside help.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I guess like as we started working together, like what would you say were your biggest doubts, like leading up to the job search, and even as you began the search, like what were the biggest doubts you were facing?
Yeah, I would say that one thing that I wasn't expecting was being able to create those memorable interviews. So I was having success in interviews, but I could tell that there was something missing as I was going through it. And we kind of rewatched and re-listened to a few different interviews, and kind of framing that success that I previously had to be more impactful was something that definitely helped during the job search.
Yeah, makes sense. And like, if I can uh, just call something out, what I remember we were talking through is you were feeling like, man, I remember like after a few of these interviews, you started like being like, man, I don't even know if with my experience or whatever, like if I can even land something like this. And so I think there was also that mental like gap of like needing to believe that this is something you could do, and which you were able to do. I think if I can put some words in your mouth, I think a lot of it just came down to like the the learning from your mistakes and then like building those things together to actually like have a conviction and like stating the facts that you actually like would be successful in a role and like being able to convey that to the interviewers. And one more thing is like just to shout out you and then even just like and I think just some of the benefits of the program. I think we were just talking like you were able to get 10 plus interviews as you're working together. So I think that's one of the benefits of joining something like SDR Accelerator is just the at bats that we get just through a combination, I would say, of my network and then your hunger and then just the accountability component as well as like holding you to a high standard to actually like execute. So, anyways, next question I have for you, Seth, is I know we've talked a lot about this already, but walk me through what actually happened as you were going through this job search. Like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
changed
So
over time as you, sorry, what changed over time as you were approaching looking for an S tier SDR role?
Yeah. So when we first began just kind of sitting down and finding those high development orgs really was beneficial to kind of pinpoint where should I put my effort to. Um, and kind of that first initial, instance of creating that impactful outreach and making sure that it's going to the correct person was something that definitely helped me secure those initial interviews. I was previously, finding somebody that I thought, might be the best person to speak to and not really leading with enough value to create that urgency to want to get on a call. So kind of changing that aspect and understanding what can I offer these people? What value can I bring to this conversation, um, to actually want them to sit down and take a 10-minute, 20-minute chat with me?
Yeah, for sure. Can you give an example of like something you started doing that like really made, I would say, a prospect, aka an SDR leader, like want to, a hiring manager, like want to like spend time with you?
Yeah. So I would say on the aspect of there was previous interviews where I was deemed that my experience wasn't what they were quite looking for, or they had some hesitations. So cutting that down and, basing it as it was, we went through and built out some key prospects that I would go and, for that company, go out and build out what would you call it?
Like a 30-60, like, I guess more of like just a
The,
potential that's a potential outreach mess, to like prospects at those
mhm.
organizations. Yeah.
Yeah, build out those prospects to those companies, fill out what outbound would look like, and kind of my reasoning on why I would actually reach out to them, and then being able to send that over to the recruiting manager or hiring manager, um, to show that I understand what the company is and I understand what messaging needs to get to those prospects.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like they're just like it doesn't really matter what the exact things that you send, but I think like to that point, if you're sending real customers at real companies of competitors where there's already, a solution. So like, I mean, I work at MongoDB and we have a big footprint at, I want to say something that's public facing. Let's just say Travelers Insurance. Then if I hit up another insurance, if I'm like trying to apply as an SDR, as an SDR for this organization, I'm going to find other insurance agencies and then like pull proof points from MongoDB's website and then send 3 contacts of like directors of software engineering, VPs of software engineering at these other insurance companies and create messaging around like how Travelers was successful, right? So like to be specific, it's like showing like how you would do the job and that overcomes so many objections off the bat, which is why it's so powerful. Is someone doesn't have to ask themselves, "Hey, would this person be good at their role?" Like before you've even got an interview, you're showing like I can do this job.
Hmm.
And so I think it just eliminates one of the biggest difficulties in the interview process, which is like risk. Like SDR managers don't want to take a risk. And so if you can like prove that you are capable, it automatically de-risks yourself as a candidate. So, anyways,
And I could also tell from the strength of those interviews
yeah.
on the ones I did beforehand, like
Hmm.
before sitting those, and then after was totally different interview. Felt like I was coming in with a sledgehammer rather than like a hammer.
Yeah.
Like I had so much
Yeah.
more value put behind me
Yeah.
that made them just a little bit easier.
Yeah. It made you believe like you, and it went from like hoping you'd be good at the job to like you yourself believed, like, I know I would do well here because I get what this job entails. So
Mhm.
that's great. Okay. What was something, Seth, that I guess surprised you about this interview process and like landing a better role?
Yeah, I think kind of tying back into the last question, as somebody with previous SDR experience, one thing that kind of surprised me was actually the skill development, going through those outbound prospects, creating those for those interviews. I think it actually made me a better SDR and kind of gaining those skills and gaining that confidence to do so actually made me a better SDR.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, I think I can relate to that. I just remember when I first got into MongoDB, just like the work I put in to like land that role made me feel like, dang, I can actually hit the ground running. So that's a good, it never hurts to like, it never hurts you to like over execute. A lot of people are fear of like wasting time, but like every little bit of like work you put in, like you get in what you put out of it, and like nothing's wasted because you'll be a better sales rep for all the like the work that you do. Okay, now that you landed a role at Synthesia, how do you feel about your path to AE? Because I know it's like it's been top of mind for you and like kind of what the SDR Accelerator program is all about. Like, right, is like helping people like basically fast track their path to AE. Yeah, how do you feel about the your opportunities there?
Yeah, I'm super excited. Management is absolutely amazing. And I think that the path is clear and set up to where I don't have to be hopeful.
Hmm.
If there is something there, there's
Hmm.
definitely a pathway to grow. And that does give me a bit of fire inside me to work, that extra bit harder.
Yep, yep. It's like it may be hard, but there's hope, which like will give you a ton of energy.
Mhm.
That's something that like I've been doing this about a year now, coaching and like formally coaching, and then even before that, like helping others in tech sales. And like the number one most important vehicle to getting to AE is joining the right organization. Like you can be the hardest working guy in the whole company, but if there's no inward path, like it doesn't matter. Meanwhile, you can be like a mediocre rep and still make it to AE at like an amazing company. So like join the right org is like so massive. But how do you? I had another question, but we kind of answered it. How do you feel now today versus how you were feeling 6 months ago?
Yeah, definitely much more hopeful and also confident in my skills to actually go out and prospect, create strategies for that outreach, basically all the day to days for SDRs. Because, not only did I gain the knowledge to crush those interviews, but I think it did actually make me that little bit better of an SDR and that confidence to go through the whole process again if I needed to. I always kind of boil it down to kind of perspective. One story I always like to say is I was big into like skating, like skateboards, and I went down this tiny ramp first and it felt like the biggest thing in the world. I went
Yeah,
and did the ramp that was twice its size, and then the tiny ramp that I thought was the biggest thing in the world was now super tiny. So I think that I've kind of gained that experience with growing in careers and positioning myself with interviews that my perspective has opened.
yeah, that's so true. And like, I think this is the most addicting part of like sales is it feels like, I mean, no matter what job you pick or like, there'll always be some sort of like development as you progress. And say, apart from like entrepreneurship, I think sales is like the single greatest vehicle for you to actually experience that like self development and like watching yourself grow. And there really is such like a plethora of skills to develop. And like, I'm hopefully a year and a half away from an enterprise role at Mongo. And like, I still feel like I could be doing this for 10 more years and still like be learning something new each week. So super fun and like glad that you've even seen that self development in yourself and that this program has helped that. how would you describe the type of SDR that might be a good fit, or the type of person that might be a good fit for the SDR Accelerator program who might want to work with me?
Yeah, I would describe kind of that SDR that a good fit is somebody who deep down knows they're not in the spot that they want to be, whether it's long term or, they're just starting out in their position and they want to kind of refine their skills, but they're willing to learn and put in the work to change it. I mean, the plan is very set and clear. You just kind of have to take the steps to achieve it. So I think somebody that is wanting that change and is willing to put the work in to get it will see massive success.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks for that honest answer, and I appreciate that. And then last question, a little bit of self glazing here, a little bit of self promo, but I guess like what was the best part of the SDR Accelerator program?
Yeah, I think that the best part was having that person that's done it before in your corner, being able to ask questions. Hey, how do I word this? What's the best way to frame this? Having that from somebody that has done it before and not only done it, but crushed it and is, looking for even that next step into that enterprise role, which is amazing to hear. But having that person in your corner gives you the confidence to go and attack it and also the guidance to be able to go and do it and be successful at it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the kind words, Seth. And like, if you've gotten all the way through the end of this, just know that like it really is enjoyable for me to help others achieve their goals. And I don't know what the price will be of this program when you hear this, but like my goal is always that whatever you pay me is just a fraction of the value that you get, not just in the short term, but the long term. So thank you, Seth. If you're listening to this and you're like wanting to jump to a better SDR role, or you just like are feel stuck and you're not sure how to get to AE, would love to chat and through the school program, or just message me on LinkedIn, the SDR Accelerator program on school, is how you can find me. And yeah, thanks, Seth, and we'll stay in touch. All right, bye.